So, alright. One more time. So, you should just open the project you've already been working on. We're starting with a new scene today. Nice.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Let me start again, sorry.
Can't put it up?
Just hold on. So I just had some things falling around, created the environment from the asset store. I increased the speed of the balls, but I couldn't get the sound I wanted to do anything, like, you know, make a sound like hitting this.
When it hits it?
Yeah, or this. But I applied to these blocks, the sound scripts that you had given us.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't working out for me, so I just took them off. But yeah.
It looks pretty good, man.
Yeah.
I can show you exactly which script to put on that and the other thing. Yeah, I think it's the other room around. Yep. This is the wacky room. So if you just get out of play mode, I'll show you how to do the sound right. So
I put the audio source in the snowman.
Yep. So the snowman, since he has a collider,
Yeah.
and this is the audio source, right? That you want him to have.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing you need, okay, so you got a net trigger here. So you should put, see, the only reason why I wasn't playing is because the script that's on here has the soccer ball thing, right? So maybe
the tag's gotta change.
Yeah, so maybe you gotta change the tag on your ball. So let's see, where's your player? And then the player has the snowball, and the snowball, yep, it's not tagged as ball. So if you tag it as ball, let's try that now to see if the sound effect plays now. No. Let's see. The snowman should at least. Well, let's see what we got here. So our player, snowball. Oh yeah, because the net trigger is an on trigger event. So let's do this. Let's just get rid of the net trigger script, and let's just create a simple multi-purpose script, and just call it like on collision play audio, something like that. Just something that you can reuse. Did I spell that right? Okay, good. So since net trigger, it's an on trigger enter. And the snowman has a box collider, not a trigger, which is fine because you want them to actually collide and you want them to bounce out. So your script should be like this. So you should write another script, and here do what we kind of did with the other one. We did on the, I believe on the goalie, we had an on collision event. So we had it looked on collision enter, and then collision other object. And then in here you do get component audio source play. Just like that. So now anytime anything enters the collision of this, whatever the script is on, so if you just put this now, this on collision play audio script, that's all it does, right? Yeah, there it is. So let's try that again.
Oh.
See?
Oh yeah.
So now you have a reusable script, and now if you put that on, so that you have a target here too, and the target also has an audio sound. So yeah, don't put the net trigger, because that's, again, we wrote that specifically for the net. Yeah, the on collision. I don't know why it won't let me.
Yeah, it's having problems with that.
If you ever have a problem with dragging the script on like that, you could always click add component here, and then you could also click this. Yep. And now you got, see? Yep.
Interesting.
And as for the these things, if you wanted to get the audio data stuff going,
It should be in the script.
I believe it's here. You should just, again, you need to have, what's playing the music?
The snowman is playing music.
Audio source, this thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So you should put the audio data script on that, right there.
Oh, I didn't have one.
And then on each of these you could put something like scale to sound. And on this one you could put like scale to sound. And then like color to sound. Oops. Yeah, if it doesn't let you drag it on like that, you can also always drag it on in here as well.
Yeah.
That usually works. Right, let's see. Might be a very slight effect. So you might need to.
I was wondering, was it
maybe make the strength. Maybe make the strength higher. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
It's definitely happening. too much. So maybe like 1,000. Yeah, so it's still very slight.
Yeah.
So if you make it in every direction, so it scales equidistant, and then let's make it 10,000. Now it'll definitely like that. Yeah. And we'll go to the music.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No.
Yeah, and now you obviously need to put the script on this target as well. But this one works. And then you can even use the same score thing that we were doing, and even count score.
Yeah, that's why I didn't get to the scoring part because I was caught up with the sound.
This is great, man. Nice.
Cool. Thank you.
I like this. Did you have fun making it?
Yeah. I mean, I initially started off with trying to do like an arrow.
Yeah.
That just wasn't working out. Like I said, it just kept like exploding in the air. So I just gave up.
It's probably how the prefab was set up. But yeah, there's, I can show you how to use the arrow too later.
Okay.
That's great. So that's what I mean about, it's good if you could do your homework, because then, I could literally just sit down with you and just make sure that it works. Like, it's probably like, it's always like something very small that you need to do to get it all working properly. But yeah, even if you have like even a basic version of it, I can still help put it together the way you wanted it. Did yours finish converting?
Yeah, it's really not done that I.
So what? It's fine. Pick it up.
Yeah.
You got the kittens there and stuff. I like that you're all using your own assets.
I was trying to learn how to script more than anything else, or just to learn how the script works. But then my kitten's falling off. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so maximize on play. Over here. Yeah, and then you can press play.
Before I do anything, my kitten fell off. So I'm not sure.
It's probably the collider, the way that they're kind of positioned. But yeah, let me see. Does the Alt to look around work now?
Yeah.
Nice.
You said you made those kittens?
No, I didn't make the kitten.
It's an asset off the assets there.
Yeah. But then I was trying to make that a scoreboard, but then so the kitten was just the position of it that's causing it.
Yeah, I think it's let's see it. So you see like the kitten, you see the collider on the kitten. You see how it's like way under its feet. So even though the cat's shape is the shape, you could come over here. So you're not in the projector yet.
Yeah.
So even though the cat's shape is what is like that, your collider, the actual like collision that's happening on the cat, it's happening way below it. So when it's intersecting this barrel, what physics does is it just kind of like blow up like that. So if you wanted to actually stand, you would probably put it like this, right? But then it kind of looks like it's floating in midair. And same thing, it's because it's kind of like it will just kind of fall over because most of it is kind of over the edge. So you need to kind of center it like that, and then it won't. Cause see, if you put the box like this, then it'll just kind of like fall over. So yeah, in order to fix the collider, you want to play with the center right here. That's the value. So the center should be something like 1 or like 0.5. Yeah. And now the center origin of the box collider starts somewhere in the body, something like that, and then it kind of like does that. Another thing too, if you want like the really accurate collider, you can use the mesh collider. You go to physics mesh, and then you just have to make sure to set that convex thing. Oh, actually, it might not work for this one. Sorry.
What's the mesh collider do?
Mesh collider makes the collider like the shape of the object, but I just realized that since it's animated, it's a little bit trickier to do that. So say you did a box collider. See, when you just put the box collider, its default, it just kind of assumes the shape. So you kind of tweak it here in center. It's center and it's size, but it's center is all you really need to tweak here. And then now if you press play, you'll see that this cat will just be on the barrel as it should be. See that?
Got it.
And then you could. That was great. So same thing, like say you wanted this cat to play like a meow sound effect or something like that when you hit it, you can write that same script, something like on collision play audio, and it's just just 2 lines. And this should probably look very similar to our goalie script, I believe. The goalie script. No, actually, yeah, I think the goalie script did. It played like another animation. I think the goalie got angry or something. So just give it a sec. All right. So our new script, you just create a new void here. Void on collision enter, and then what's entering the collision other object, or whatever you want to call that. And then here you just do get component the audio source that's on the object, and you play whatever sound effect is on that cat. So you won't have to even rewrite this. For example, this is a very reusable script. So now that you have this component script, now whatever you have on this cat, say you add an audio to it, right? You go to component audio source, and you make the cat, have some meow sound or something like that. Probably don't have one here right now, but let's say I just grab like whatever is available, like there's this, there's like something like sound.
Yeah, I don't have any sound effects.
So the sound would probably work. So, and I turn out the play on awake because I don't want it to play right away. I only want it to play when I hit the cat. So now I turn and I hit the cat.
It's not a sound effect, it's like a music track.
Oh, and is a music? Okay. Well, maybe something else. Like I think this button click one. Yeah, it might not play the sound through the projector, but I think I heard it like slightly. But yeah, now whatever that script you could, and if you have the script. Oh, actually, I forgot to put the script. Sorry. Right here on the cat. Yep. So now that button click will press. Yep. See, it even played it when it fell on the barrel, because whenever something enters its collision, it plays a sound effect. So, and now if I hit the cat, see, kind of funny. You could put a funny sound effect. Like I think a meow would be really, really good there. I'd like to see that. I would. That's like I laughed the first time I hit the cat off the barrels. It was just like meow. That would be pretty funny.
Why should we record?
Yeah, that was a great job. I love it. All right. Did you do the physics homework maybe by chance? That's cool. All right. So now that we've covered homework,
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
All the assets that we've downloaded or dragged onto our desktop, do we need those anymore after they've already been imported into the...
no, not really. I mean, it makes a copy of them in the Unity project, but still, like, I don't know, I keep it, like, depends on what it is. Like, if you just have some random textures or something like that, you know, you don't necessarily need it on the desktop or anywhere like that. Everything gets copied into the Unity project. So even if you deleted it off the desktop, it would still work in your Unity project. Yeah, it's not like Premiere or something like that where like where the files are, you know, if you delete them and you open your Premiere project, then it's like it's gone. Yeah. So nice. So what we're gonna be doing today is level design and storytelling. So we're gonna kind of try to figure out how to create like a beautiful, compelling environment and to tell some sort of story. Now, you know, it's kind of up to you what, you know, when you create a VR experience or whatever, you know, doesn't necessarily have to be a story. Like it could be like what we were just doing, like a physics demo and you're just hitting some cats, you know, off barrels or you know, snowmen or whatever. Or, you know, it could be, you know, something like passive, like where the user is just kind of sitting and he's watching like music video and listening to music. But there's also the active form of a VR experience. So you're an active user walking through a virtual world and to explore a story or an environment, something like that. Now, the assets and stuff that you choose to tell a story, it really depends on you and what story you want to tell. What's beautiful about VR is that you could create characters, you could create environments. You know, they might not look photorealistic, but it's enough, you know, like of a, I guess like, you know, human-like interaction that you could tell a story. You could have narration, you could have visual cues of text coming up, and yeah, I mean, you could kind of decide what story you want to tell. Now, we're not gonna tell like any, you know, crazy, you know, written story, but I'm just kind of gonna do it like in terms of kind of like checkpoints, kind of like you're getting from one point to another point, and we're just gonna have a very simple story, if it's even gonna be a story. But we're gonna come up with something. And yeah, today what we're gonna do, so it's not gonna be scripting pretty much like at all today. We're just gonna have a lot of fun with just creating like a beautiful environment and kind of arranging a scene and, you know, telling whatever story we're gonna tell. For the purposes of this demo, we're gonna go and kind of, yeah, just, you know, open up your Unity project, and we're gonna, hey man, is your friend coming too?
No, he's actually.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I think you mentioned something about that. Did you do your physics homework thing?
I did not.
Okay, that's cool. Because I just had people come up and show it off. What?
I wish I would have put more time into it.
It's okay.
I'm probably going to tonight, so I can pass it over to tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, do that. So each of my boot camps that I do, I use like a different environment. So just to kind of show how, you know, you can be very flexible with it. But I'm gonna kind of show you what kind of environment you kind of want to look for when you're going to be creating these VR experiences. So if you just open the asset store, now yours might look kind of like small like this, and you might not see the sidebar here. Good way to do that is if you just pull the asset store out as a separate window like this, then you should be able to stretch it out. And just stretch it out enough so you can get this sidebar here with the categories. So just go ahead and do that now. And what we're going to go is we're going to go to 3D models here, and we're going to go to environments. So we're going to kind of look for an environment to tell our story. Now, there's lots of environments obviously on the Unity store. There's paid ones, there's free ones. We're going to click the free ones for the purposes of this tutorial. And we're going to kind of look through some of these, and I'm just going to kind of tell you which ones would be appropriate for what we want to do and which ones wouldn't, for example. So, say like you have these big, like realistic terrain, you know, like what is this collection light, for example. See this is very like high graphics. You know, you would need to be running this on an HTC Vive or on like a really high performance computer. So this is not an appropriate type of environment for telling a story on a mobile VR headset. Now again, we have to remember that we are doing everything for mobile right now, for mobile VR. And what I like to say is like you don't need to overkill with like graphics and details. The more important thing is the story that you're trying to tell and the interaction that we're gonna have in this world. So we're gonna kind of get out of this and we're gonna look for some kind of efficient and low poly, which means low polygon, so it won't take up a lot of space. Now the one that I've been kind of eyeing for today's tutorial is this one right here. It's called 3D Sci-Fi Starter Kit. Now what's great about this one is that I can tell just by looking at it, it's made of pieces. So it's perfect for level design because each of the sections, you got like, you know, turned hallway, you got like a big room. So you can kind of assemble them almost like Lego blocks when you're building your story. So this is one of the choices that I'm considering for a tutorial. I'm going to show you another one that we've used in like a previous one, and it's also pretty good looking.
Why was the free rocks one not good, or the
So let's see. I mean, you know, depends on the story you want to. I kind of want to go for some interior, exterior. Like I kind of want like some walls and like you know, if we were trying to do something like, I guess the free rocks pack could be a good addition to an existing scene if you need some rocks, but it's not really an environment in itself. It is, but like it's not like as kind of enthralling as like maybe like a sci-fi interior or like a medieval interior or something. There's another one here, 3D free modular kit. The same thing. This looks pretty good for kind of sectioning out some rooms, and it's the perfect kind of setup for going from something like point A to point B. So like you kind of go through some corridors, you get greeted with some messages, maybe there's some enemies to shoot or something like that, and you get to some final conclusion, whatever that may be. I want to kind of keep scrolling through here, show you some other examples. And also let me know if there's any ones that look interesting to you. So this was another one that we did in a previous bootcamp, Sky City Light. Now, this pack has a paid version of this that comes with a lot more details, for example. But this one I also very much like because it's pieces. So it kind of comes like this, but you can take these pieces and kind of like copy them around and create like a whole little narrative kind of out of it. So this is like a strong second choice. So I'll kind of leave it up to you guys if you're more interested in doing like an interior scene or an exterior scene. I kind of recommend playing with exteriors a little bit because it'll also give us a chance to do some skybox stuff. So I want to kind of look to see if there's any other interesting ones. I know there's some medieval ones too that are pretty good piece-wise. Now of course, you know, there's a limited amount of how much like just straight free completely well done environments there are, but when you kind of see how some of these are made, you can kind of start to understand what you would want to look for in the right toolkit for you to tell your story. So let's see here. This is just like medieval stuff. So, White City, it's not bad. Say that again?
Like, is there any way to know, like, there's something we don't particularly want to use? Like, something looks fine, but we have some details that will screw us up or whatever?
Well, the best way is to actually just kind of import it and to try it. But you can kind of, if you see like lots of like trees and grass blades and just lots of like a crazy elaborate like outdoor environment with rocks and pebbles, and it's usually like probably meant for a more high-end computer. If you see some of these, that you can see that they're simple shapes. These are usually like very very optimized assets, and you could take like something like this city and put it together pretty well, and not like lag out your story. Basically, you can create like the idea is you kind of want to find some, let's see, like medieval town, for example. Same thing, if you look at it, it's kind of cartoony, it's low detail, but it still looks like it's of a decent quality. Like it's kind of like it's something passable, like if you saw it in an already made app or something like that. And of course you can go all the way down to something like this. It's really kind of up to you what kind of art style you want to use. The great thing about telling a story is you kind of have to it's really, again, it's up to you what kind of story you want to tell. And a lot of times the environment can fit around the story. Like you can kind of try to find like the environment that would fit you best. And let me see something like this, like San Francisco house, for example. Like this seems like it's also pretty well optimized, but the problem with using something like San Francisco house, it's just one house, and the door doesn't seem like it opens either. It's just kind of like a house prop. And you know, if you're just in an immersive like VR environment, for the most part you could maybe just clone a bunch of these houses like this. But again, it depends on the story you're trying to tell, but this would also be a great piece with maybe something else too. So this and a rock pack and maybe a tree pack, then maybe we're talking. Now we can maybe make like a little, you know, environment and stuff. But again, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just gonna kind of show what like a really good pack would look like. And I really like the Sky City one, and I'm gonna show you why exactly. So if we just look up Sky City, so everyone just go ahead and do that. So it's this one right here, Sky City Light. So I already have it downloaded, so I don't need to. It just says import for me, but you know, go ahead and download Sky City Light. And you know, we're gonna import this pack. I'm gonna kind of show you what makes this like a pretty good pack. I've had packs that I've paid for example, where it really depends on the 3D artist. So you just go, I made a backup, go ahead if it says that. Depends on the 3D artist, but I've seen some where like the whole building or the whole city or whatever all is kind of like in one model. You can't like pull things apart. Like you can't pull the trash can off the sidewalk, for example. It's just like embedded in there. Houses where like the pillars and the doors and everything is just kind of like unmovable. So you can't really play around with it that much. You can't like pull apart walls and windows and etc. and kind of make your own house. This pack, on the other hand, you'll see that everything was created to be moved. So everything can be kind of rearranged, and you can move those monitors, those trash cans, those platforms, and etc. And what you're going to see is how we're going to take a simple environment like this, and we're going to kind of make it, you know, longer, and you know, something that the player walks through and explores. Yep. So just do. I made a backup. Go ahead. That's just saying that this asset was created with an older version of Unity. So you know, when you upgrade, it will just do it all automatically. Now, while this is doing that as well, I'm going to talk a little bit about how what it really kind of goes into creating a beautiful environment. And half the environment, especially in an outdoors environment, is the sky. Really, like it sets the mood for the lighting in the scene. Whether it's a night scene or a day scene that we're using. So there's multiple ways to get a skybox. One of the most obvious ways probably is to just, mine's already in, is to get one on the asset store, for example. So if you just look up skybox, there's a bunch already there, free and paid ones. So I'll show you how to use one of these skies, and I'll still wait for everyone to import. And then I'll also show you how to make a skybox too. Is say you had like your own image or whatnot. I can kind of show you an easy Unity way of creating a skybox as well. So I kind of like this one, this fantasy skybox. It's free, looks nice. It's kind of got these cartoony clouds stuff. Got day and night, so it's perfect. Could really depend on the story that you're trying to tell. I'm gonna go ahead and import this one too. But again, I'll still wait for everyone to import their Sky City Light, and whenever you get the chance, import the Fantasy Skybox as well.
We want this in the same project as well as script.
Yep, yeah, everything in the same project. If you are don't have the most recent version of the project, or there's on Slack, I believe I uploaded like one of the Unity packages for the more recent ones. What you can do is you can start a new project and just import that packet, the most recent package in Slack.
I think I have it on this.
That's fine. In any case, we're going to be kind of creating a new scene anyway. But if you just want to have the files that we've been working with so far, you could you can just log in there to. There should be an activation in your email, and it should be there. So I'm already getting some script errors here. Now, the reason this Sky City Light's giving some script errors is because it seems to be a kind of an old pack, and what it did is it imported a bunch of these things called standard assets here, which we actually probably don't need. So if you already imported the Sky City Light, there is in the Sky City Light folder, there's a standard assets folder that you can just go ahead and delete. I believe it should work. Yeah. So, nope. And we got some more in the editor, and then the editor folder as well. Delete that. Yep. So. Yes, I'll just put up the asset store again. So get yourself this pack first, Sky City Light.
We also need this package too.
I'm just saying, just if you want what we kind of had so far. Again, you probably won't need it for today. We're kind of just creating a new scene. So there should be the day 3 package rental. That's one of the ones that we did from day 3. I'll upload what we end up doing today.
What do you want?
No, skybox.
Oh, it's a cartoon sky or something like that. Just look up Skybox. It's one of the ones that comes up there. What's it called? Fantasy Skybox. Yeah, that's what it's called. So whenever you do have this imported and stuff, again, you might get some errors. So just go in the Sky City Light folder and delete the standard assets and the editor as well, folders from in there. And go ahead and go into the scene folder and open the scene that it comes with. Let's see. It should all be here. If you just look at just search Skybox, and that should be and one word Skybox. Yeah, also make sure to press the free thing. It'll make it all free. Free only. Yeah, there, fantasy Skybox. So yeah, when you do have it imported, go ahead and open the scene that it came with. So
Deleted the standard asset.
from the Sky City Light folder, it came with its own. It was giving me some errors. I guess it's not giving you an error. You did it? Yeah, and then delete the editor folder too. Yep.
Oh, delete it. So delete the standards folder, the scene folder, and the editor folder?
Yep, which are in the Sky City Light folder. Because it comes with some old Unity for like standard assets and whatnot. So those have all changed for the recent
Do you make a
one.
new project first?
So we just use the project we've been working on so far. You don't need to start a new project. So you're already kind of in there, I think. And you do yeah. And then just get rid of standard assets and get rid of editor. Yeah. Yes, you still have some errors. Let me see. That should be fine. I think it's just yeah, if you just clear it and then it goes away, then it should be fine. So everyone open up the Sky City Light scene. Should be in the scene folder. So in the Sky City Light folder, there should be a scene folder right there.
So double click the scene.
Yeah, just by double clicking the scene, Unity scene in the scene folder.
Oh, I see, it's all right.
Yeah, so if you want to center it on, camera might start somewhere weird. Just double click on props. Or double click on, one of these. And then just kind of, go in there, like hold right click, and then just position your camera like right in here. So we can get a good look at the scene. So now there's some things that you can see that make these assets, kind of look nice. And one of the most prominent things is that they have everything is normal mapped. I can tell just by looking, but if you can't, you can, whenever you click one of these objects and you look at like this floor material, you see the floor material has 3 texture types. It has a normal map, see that? So this floor has a normal map, it has a specular map, it has detail, so it has lots of different texture maps to make up one material. Now, there's a word for this. It's called PBR, so it means physically based renderer material. So a lot of the higher end assets will come with each material having multiple textures like this, kind of like, see, like there's like a color and then there's also a normal map. The normal map kind of defines the bumpiness and stuff. And what that allows is for you to you can see how, these bumps here on this metal, these aren't actually mesh. You can actually turn on the shaded wireframe right here and you can see that the triangles are actually, this isn't like polygon material, meaning that this doesn't impact performance that much. It's just a picture of these details. But more than just a picture, they react to light, so the shine and the shadows bounce off them properly. So every single material in this scene has been very well calibrated. For example, some of the things like the circles are a little bit longer than they should be and stuff, but that kind of stuff doesn't really matter. But if you just look at everything else, you can see that it's each object is meticulously detailed. And you'll notice that if you click something like the light pole, for example, that you can actually, everything is movable.
What about the text on the ads?
So the text on the ads is just a picture. So if you just open the ad, I believe you look at it here, see? So they're just textures. So changing that would be as easy as opening this texture in Photoshop and changing this picture. So did everyone also import that skybox? So the skybox is if you just look up skybox and click free only, it's right here. It's like the 6th one, fantasy skybox. So everyone go ahead and get that as well. So with both of those imported, I'll show you how to use the skybox first. You get it right? You have it right? Fantasy skybox. Did you get the fantasy skybox thing? So what we want to do here is, before we get into the skybox and stuff, basically we're going to be taking these pieces. Now you notice if you could just click on the floor, for example, you'll see that it's all segments. So this is what I mean by like assets as building blocks. So when you're looking for assets that are good for you, you try to find assets that you can use, that you can actually piece together and build together like Legos, like environments. So this whole environment is like this. you'll see that it's all segments. So say I wanted to extend this, I would grab this and the end cap and oops, and I could just pull it like that. So if I pull, like, let's say, I don't know, a bunch, and then I grab one of these middle sections and I copy it, I can, and if it, to pull it like this, by the way, you hold control, kind of pull it in these snaps, of one unit space. So, and I'll get rid of this since there's really no end there, and just kind of, oops, copy this and make this corridor longer. And there it is. So, and it all fits together perfectly, like pieces. Now, for you as the developer, as the level designer, this is an amazing type of asset, because you could, you know, kind of very easily iterate and rearrange things and extend things if you need to. So now, for the purposes of each of you, everyone's gonna kind of lay it out a little bit different. The one thing with this asset is you can't really go left or right. There is like a way we could kind of fake it, but we're actually not gonna do that, because for the purposes of our story, we don't want to kind of confuse the player too much. We want to pretty much guide them along like a linear storyline. So there's a beginning and there's an end. So, you know, just in the spare time and stuff, while I'm going around and helping people out and stuff, feel free to play with these assets and to kind of to do what I just did here, for example. But in the meantime, now everyone should have their skybox, right? So I just want to show you, because this environment just is using the regular Unity skybox. I want to show you how to switch the skybox and just introduce you in general to this new part of Unity called the lighting part, right? So you go to Window right here, and then there's a lighting. You should see it right there. And if you click Settings, you will open up the lighting settings dialog. So in here, you should see the skybox material is just the default skybox. Well, what I'm going to do then is I'm actually going to click over here this folder, my fantasy skybox, and in those materials, see I have day and night versions of the skybox. So what I can do is I can grab something like Sunny A and put it here in the skybox material, and I just changed the skybox. Or the night.
Can you move the sun or the light?
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you move it like in a different place than where the actual sun is in the scene, and I'll explain why that is in a moment. But so these skyboxes are not bad. You know, just kind of downloaded off the internet. I personally kind of think they're pretty low res. I can kind of see it here already, and in VR you would be able to kind of notice that it's a little bit of a picture, but it's not bad. You know, we got like a nice sky city going on here, for example, and you'll notice that the lighting is also being changed dynamically. So when I put the night, see all the blues and the hues kind of tweak themselves, and this is a new Unity feature. It's part of their new lighting engine. The old one didn't used to do that. You had to kind of tweak it yourself. You'll notice here, if I change the intensity multiplier, I can change the amount of environment lighting coming from the skybox. So, you know, if you're doing something like a night scene, you probably wouldn't want this to be, you know, too bright, kind of look a little bit unrealistic. So since it's night, you know, there's not that much environment lighting coming. It's kind of like a dark scene. But for like something like a sunny scene, you know, having it too dark like this is, again, it's not bad. But it would probably look more like this, more brighter. So yeah, this is fine and dandy, and you could, you know, obviously you can go in the asset stores. There's a lot of different skyboxes. There's like one that's like a galaxy and stuff. You know, these are not bad either. But how about you wanted to create a skybox custom? So how would you do that? So now let me show you. So say we go to our good friend Google and we look for, you wouldn't have to do it on Google. You could actually do this with like a 360 photo that you take, for example, or like a panorama photo that you would do like in your camera app. Now I'm just gonna look for some panoramas, some sky panoramas. And when I'm looking for my images, I like to go here to tools and size. I like to make the size of my filter on Google larger than 2 megapixels, 4 megapixels. Like these need to be large. Like you can't like a panorama, you want like the full quality panorama. You don't want like some little like joke panorama. So there's some interesting ones here. Like this one's not that bad. It's got mountains and stuff. So say you wanted to take this image and turn this into a skybox, right? So there's a few steps. Now let's all kind of go ahead and grab this one, or whichever one you want actually. I'm just gonna download it. Now make sure when you're in Google, that when you click the image and you have to click view image here in order to get the full res image. So that's this is a very high res image, for example. Clouds are alright, but yeah, it'll do. So say I take this image and you got yourself a nice like long panorama. You grab it, you put it into Unity. So in order to use an image like this as your sky, you click that image once you have it imported, and here in the import settings, well actually no, in the import settings, in the texture shape, see where it says 2D? So we want to import a cube. That's kind of what it's called here. So what that means, basically it will map this flat image to a cube, basically, that just kind of like envelops. Now you'll see how this works. It's an automatic process. So mapping right here, you can choose auto, but what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go for a latitude longitude layout. So since this image is kind of like cylindrical projection, like if you think about it, someone stood there and just took some photos like this and stitched them together, and that's how you make a panoramic photo. So in order to put it back into 3D, we're gonna pretty much kind of lay it out like it's like on a cylinder. So all you have to do is texture shape. It's not a 2D texture, it's a cube. And the mapping, you select latitude longitude, and this should be all fine. Fix up edge seams doesn't really do much. And if I click apply, it'll take a few seconds to just calculate the 3D shape of this.
Can you talk about the mapping?
So think of the mapping like you have a 2D flat picture and you need to map it to a 3D shape. So mapping in this instance, it's an automatic process. You're just kind of choosing how you want to stretch that image. So in this instance, since this is a panorama, we're going to use the latitude longitude layout, and you see in parentheses it says cylindrical. So kind of picture like this image being folded around the cylinder, and you can see that that's what the image actually is. You see it right here once it's been converted. So now this converted image, it's still just an image. It's not yet a skybox. So in order to create a skybox material for the sky, you have to, again, create a material like you would any other material. So you go to right click, create material, and you call it something like my skybox. And right now, every material that you create starts with a standard shader. So what we're going to actually use is down here, we're going to use a skybox shader. And select something like the cube map one. So what it wants is a cube map, and what we earlier created was a cube map. That's this object. And you can able to pull that in here, and it basically will kind of auto-generate a skybox. You'll notice it has a seam, and we'll work with that seam in a second. But and then you could rotate it, and you can do things like tweak the exposure and stuff of the sky. So it's a specific type of shader, specifically made for skyboxes. So now that I created, my texture, and I created my material for the sky, now I can use that just like how I used the other one. I can go into Window, Lighting, Settings, and now I can pull my skybox in here, and there it is. So from Google with the seam. It's not perfect yet.
What else did you change about the original panoramic image?
All I changed was I just made it a cube type and latitude, longitude, apply, and then once you did that, then you create a new material for your skybox. So we're gonna go over this seam in a second.
I'm sorry, can you start from the create material again?
Yeah, so all you do is you right click, create material, you name it something, and then here in the shader, so we're not using standard because this is not going to be like a surface. You're going to go there and you're going to find skybox in these shaders, and use the one that's called cube map, and there it will kind of give you a slot to pull in that texture that you just created earlier. You just pull it in there. So now they look kind of something like this down here. For the most part, this is a pretty cool effect. The only problem that we have is this seam. Now, this isn't like a graphic design class or whatever, but I can kind of imagine that everyone here could master like some simple Photoshop on their own. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna show you just a quick technique. And this, you don't even have to do this in Photoshop. You can do this in like GIMP or in like a free image editing software. But I'm gonna just show you how you fix a seam on an image that you just pull off the internet for use in something like a skybox. And then I'll actually put this image up on Slack, and then everyone can download it and work with the same texture. So you don't have to pull up Photoshop right now to do this.
Before you shoot a stat, after you create a material, and then what do?
You select a shader for skybox, cube map, and then you pull that texture you made in here, and then you go to Window and Lighting Settings, and there you put that new skybox material in there, and that applies the skybox here. So yeah, let me just make sure everyone's got that, and then I'll go into editing this image. If you didn't download it, it wouldn't do it. So all you have to do though is just use the skybox that we did earlier. So go to Window and Lighting. Oh, you already got it? Okay, so pull up the other skybox, the free night sky. You open that and go into its materials, and you'll see a bunch of different. And yeah, so yeah, like. Oh yeah, I think you had a fantasy skybox. My bad. That's another. You go to its materials. Just wait. Did you do the image converting thing? What did you do?
You just looking for this.
Well, just wait for it a little bit. I'm not sure what it's doing, but when it does get in, okay, yeah, you were downloading another one. You can import that if you want, or yeah. So if you want to use any of the skyboxes, like the fantasy skybox, for example, once it's done doing that, it's in the materials there. You'll see a bunch of skies, and you can pull one of those skies here as a skybox material, and you'll see it change.
Is it something like this?
Yeah, so it really depends on your image. Let me see what image you were using.
I was using.
I mean, the original image, like, Google.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that it's like a panoramic image, because otherwise it will look very stretched. It most likely was a square image, or like
It was.
close to one. So no, you really want it to be very long, very wide. Oh, so that's too wide. Yeah, that might be a reason. That's literally like a 360. It's really wide, but it's not tall enough. Yeah, but I'm gonna Photoshop this one
Okay.
anyway, and you're just gonna end up using that one. So that one's good. We can actually use that in the previous tutorial. All right, so check it out, right? So in order to do this, now you can choose to follow, if you do have Photoshop and stuff, you can follow along this part too. So what I'm gonna do is I could edit the one off the desktop, but an even better effect, just to kind of show you how the workflow works, is I can actually right click the image that I set the import settings here. If I right click show in Explorer, it'll show me the original image in the Unity project, and I can edit that one. And that, when I update it in here, it will update in Unity as well instantly. So now check this out. So the quickest way to make a seam, now some of you may already know how this works, but for me, all I do is I basically, you go to filter, other, and then in offset, you basically have to offset the image. Now you could do this in different ways, but say I offset it like 2048 pixels to the right, and that's the seam right there. So in order to fix this seam, just the quickest and easiest way to do it is to literally grab a chunk like this, copy it, paste it, and then transform and mirror it like this. Okay? And then you take an eraser tool and you make the size of the eraser much bigger and the hardness much smaller, and you kind of grab just the edges of this and you kind of erase them right there, just like that. And that's just like a quick seam job right there. So I went from that to that. Okay, now this isn't ideal either, because what you end up having then is you end up having perfectly mirrored details here. So in order to patch that up too, what you can do is then you can merge this, and you can start using something like the clone tool. This all kind of depends on how much you want to really kind of mess with it, and then you make sure that the hardness isn't too hard. Something smaller. Something like that. And then you grab some of these trees and just make sure you keep the shoreline in there. Kind of depends on how you want to do it, and just the clouds too. So the clouds are also very mirrored up here, so I'll just grab like a chunk of some clouds from here and just a very quick job, just so it doesn't look way too mirrored and stuff, but you can still see a little bit of mirror right here. So you go ahead and you just kind of do the same thing. You just kind of patch it up a little bit like that. And now I also got did a bad mirror job here, so same thing, just kind of grab some more mountains. Hey. I believe grabbing one from so see, since this kind of has to go, this is like a tall slope here, so you kind of maybe want to find something like it, okay, so this one right here kind of goes down, so then I grab from here and I kind of go down. Now I'm going to tweak this mountain over here, obviously. Kind of just take it to its completion there. all I need is one small ridge, something like this right here, and there it is, right? So kind of you work with real life, you work with photographs and such. It's not perfect, the shoreline doesn't line up here and stuff, but this is kind of low anyway, so you actually won't be able to see this from the guardrail in the world anyway. So I just go ahead and save this, and I go back to Unity. It's doing its thing, it's re-importing, and you should see that seam disappear after it's done importing. And what I'm gonna also do is I'm gonna grab this image, I believe that's it, yeah, and I'm gonna put this on Slack. So, or you could use the skybox from the asset store too. That one's also pretty good. So it's really up to you. But yeah, if you want this one, it's right here, in case you want it. But again, you don't have to. The other skybox is just fine. So you see the seam has been imported. The only one that we still have a problem with is up here. And I'm actually going to show you a cool trick that I use to fix that. But as you can see, it's also a pretty cool effect when you look down there as well. It's pretty trippy. So no seam, we got a nice sky going on. The only problem is a top cap. Now obviously the top cap is not going to be perfect because we are just using a horizontal image. So the photographer never actually took a picture of anything what's above. So we gotta kind of gotta fake it basically. So here's another technique that I use for basically completing the skybox. And I don't even know if anyone even teaches this, but this is my technique. I do it like this. No one taught. I just kind of figured it out. So I just grab like a circle like this. But before I do that, I make sure to feather it. So I grab a nice chunk of circle like this, and I create a new image, and this is not good. So you have to make sure that the circle actually reaches the edges. So I'm feathering it too much here. So maybe what feather does is basically it just kind of helps you grab a selection that's kind of faded towards the edges. So that's what feather does. So something like this. So basically what I do is I grab a kind of like a circle crop of clouds like this. I remove the background and I make sure it's transparent like this. And I save this as a separate element. I call this like the sky cap or something like that. This is, again, it's just a technique for just converting your typical image that probably isn't meant for this, and we kind of make it do what we want it to do. So then I pull this sky cap in here in Unity, and all I do then is I create a plane. I'm gonna give this sky cap to over here if anyone needs it. So then all I do is I create a plane, I make it very large, and I put this sky cap material on it, this texture on it, and then I switch to a transparent shader. So one of the problems that we have with this scene is that we actually have something called fog. So if anything is too far, it kind of gets caught into fog. So to turn off the fog, I just go into Window, Lighting, Settings, and all the way at the bottom there's a fog right there that just came with the scene. It's like a blue fog. I'm just going to turn off the fog. We don't need it. So yeah, so I have my sky cap. You see that? So can you guess what I'm going to do with this sky cap? You see what we have right here? It's very ugly. It just kind of it just kind of comes to this one point. So I'm gonna just take this image that I just kind of cut out, and I'm gonna flip it like this. Flip it downwards and just take it all the way to the sky. Instead of using the standard shader, because it's becoming affected by the light, I'm gonna use an unlit transparent shader, so it doesn't have any light affecting it. And then all I do is I position this. See that? I position it into the scene there, and I bigger, and there you go. So that's, from this to this. Okay. Just a simple technique that I came up with. I use it. It works pretty well. I've honestly seen people ship their VR apps with this. Like, I've seen that, and they're like, whatever, I don't care. No one looks up anyway. But I look up, and I feel like it's important to show that. But this is just kind of like a simple example in how you can create some pretty, it's a pretty good effect. Now, this photo is probably not the best. There's higher quality photography out there that you could use, and you can capture your own higher quality photography too. But just as an example, the other thing too is when I move, you can see that the sky kind of moves away from me. So the trick here is that it's very close. So that's how perspective works. So you have to actually make it a lot further and a lot bigger, practically to the point where like you don't even see the effect of perspective yet. So now if I'm here and I move with it, the effect is so slight that you can barely notice it. But to make that effect even more pronounced, you just have to make things further and bigger, and then it doesn't matter how puny your self is that's moving down here, the thing is still in relatively the same perspective. So yeah, a completely non-meant for this image, just panorama. This is kind of like the best way to stitch it up, and even the bottom looks pretty cool. So again, it's not really meant to be looked at, but if someone did look at it, I think that it would look pretty interesting. Kind of looks like a planet down there, and we're kind of on the sky here. So yeah, again, this is just kind of an example of creating a skybox. You could use the skybox that we downloaded too. It's just think of this just kind of like a technique, like if you're looking to just create some good graphics, and you want to just know, I want to create my own skybox. I don't, I get it. I could just download skyboxes of the asset store, and anyone can teach you how to download a skybox of the asset store. But I like to kind of teach you like that you could make a skybox with fairly little effort, and just the right image. So yeah, I mean, to go ahead with that, yeah, we could take like a 5-minute break, and then I'll come around and make sure everyone's up to speed.